This is the first video on how to do HTML or build websites for the class. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it's a language that's built simply for formatting text. It's fairly easy to use and fairly straightforward. For the sake of this lab, I strongly recommend using your server for it. This can be done on your local machine, but there's some things in the end that you're going to have to transfer files up to your server to do. So you're going to end up making your life a lot easier if you just do this on the server anyway. So while we're on the server, go ahead and open up your Visual Studio Code. And when it's open, you may see some things that are open. Close any windows that are open on this side. And then make sure you click on Explorer up at the top. Some of you may be down here in your SQL server, but just go ahead and click Explorer up top. And that will list the files in the selected folder, which in this case, we were doing our SQL stuff, so you'll see all the SQL files. We need to create a new folder for our HTML files. It's very important that we do this because HTML is going to be made up of multiple pages. So our website's going to have multiple HTML pages on it, and they're all going to link to each other. And so all the pages and all of the images need to be in the same folder. You can place them in other folders, but then linking is far more difficult, and so we're starting out simple. So let's go ahead and create a new folder. So go ahead and click File up at the top here, and then click Open Folder. And then you can put the folder wherever you'd like. I'm going to create a folder here under Documents. So we'll just right-click here, or you can click the New Folder button, either way. New Folder. And I'm just going to put HTML in there. And then go into the folder so that you're actually in the folder. And then click Select Folder. And that's going to change the active folder. And you'll see here, there's now no more files in this folder. Now the first thing we need to do is create the file of our main site. And this is very important. A lot of people mess this part up, so pay close attention. We want to go ahead and either start new file, or you right-click and create new file. And that file should be called index.html. This is the part that kind of trips people up a lot. So you can put anything you want .html for web pages, but your main page should be called index.html. And so when this is up on a web server, it's going to require a file like that to serve your main page up. So let's make our first file called index.html. And then since it has .html, it's automatically detected by Visual Studio Code, which is great. And we're going to put the typical first program topic in here. We're just going to say hello world, which is kind of the default thing people do for their first program. Go ahead and file save. So now you've saved a page, and literally the only thing in it is hello world. Now that we've put that in there, we're going to go ahead and minimize this, and we're going to click on Start. And we're going to go to File Explorer. And if you can't find it in here, you should be able to search for File Explorer down here in your search. File Explorer, and it should come up. So once File Explorer is open, you'll see your hard drive here. We're going to go to your Documents and then HTML, or wherever it is that you saved your file, right? So we're going to go to HTML. Now, when you go there, notice mine says index.html. Yours may not. So I'm going to go ahead and go to View and show you this. Yours may just say index here. And over here it'll say HTML document. This is because file name extensions are turned off typically by default. And so you won't be able to see your extensions. Being able to see your file extensions are very important. So when you're doing web development, it can be very important, especially when you're downloading images and you need to find out if it's a JPEG or a PNG. What are file extensions again? Those are the last characters after a period, and they tell your computer what type of file it is. So we're going to turn file extensions on. If it's not on, we're going to turn viewing them on. So within here, click this View button here, and then over here to the right, you'll see File Name Extensions. If you click that, you'll see now the extension is showing up. So you'll want to turn that on. I think they hide stuff from like that from us. They keep us from messing things up, but we're all smart enough to handle it. And I think taking that away from users ends up taking power away from users, and they end up becoming over reliant on things. So it's a good thing, good practice to get into, just to have that control over your computer. All right, so now we have our file here that we created and saved. We can see that it's an HTML file. Go ahead and double click it, and it's going to say, what do you want to open it with? You can choose always. We'll say Microsoft Edge. That one's fine. Hit OK, and it should load. It'll take just a moment, probably the first time that you do it. And then you'll see here is your web page. Hello World right there. If it's the first time opening Internet Explorer, it may have you go through all of those steps to say you don't want to be tracked or you don't want to move your favorites over and all of the ad stuff that Microsoft likes to do. Um, but once it loads, you should see this Hello World thing here. So you can see how easy it is to create a web page. We literally just typed in what we wanted to type. Now, there's a couple caveats to this we need to know. The first thing, there's two things. The first thing is the enter key gets ignored. So if I come over here and I hit enter several times and then I save, I can come back over here. I don't need to go into here and reopen. I can come over here and hit refresh. And you'll notice nothing has changed on my page. I can right click here and view the source, and you'll see in the source code that the browser received, those enters are there. But here, they're not there. So the enter key is ignored whenever you use it in your HTML code. Another thing that gets ignored is spaces. So if I were to do this, let's go ahead and delete these up here, and we'll put a bunch of spaces here and then save it. The only space that will actually get paid attention to is the first one. The rest will get ignored. So if I come up here and I refresh, you'll notice that it hasn't changed. But if I view the code that the browser is seeing, the spaces are in there. So this is a good thing to know. So there's two things. Everything you type in here will show up, but number one, any enter keys that you put in will be ignored, and number two, any spaces that you add will also be ignored other than the first one.